Okay, so I'm joined by Kit Conrad of the band Seething Akira. First of all, mate, how are you doing? And thank you for chatting to us today.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to have a little natter. I am good, thank you. I'm good. It may be freezing, but I'm warm inside, and that's all that matters, right?
Exactly. Well, at least you can get some heat at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
what we've heard in
true.
the news isn't positive about that.
No.
Um, I want to start off though with talking about your latest album, Cancel Estate. Now, this came
Yeah.
out in October. How do you personally feel it's been received by the fans?
It's always that catch-22, right? No one's come and told me it's bad, but obviously it's kind of like you surround yourself by people that are obviously of the same nature and kind of background that you like. So I imagine there's some people out there that may not be as interested in it as others, but very well perceived overall. A lot of people are saying that it's kind of like we found our sound, and this is now the time where we kind of master our sound and we kind of, to a degree, know what we're doing, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like Cancel Estate really shows that off.
Cool. Well, I mean, if it's any help, like because you surround yourself by people that are yes men, I'm just going to tell you it was terrible.
Thank you, mate. Thank
No,
you.
I'm
It's
only
actually
kidding. I
what.
actually really dug it, to be fair.
Excellent.
Um,
Thank you.
Now I want to know where the name Cancel Estate came from. What was the thinking behind calling it that?
It's kind of like a double entendre, you could say. So the majority of the band being Portsmouth based, have always grown. So I'm actually originally from the Isle of Wight, moved over here quite early in my teens. Even back where I was from, council estates and British culture, I think as a whole is a big thing. And down south, you call it a council estate, you know. So
Yeah,
I think there's always that by wording it in that aspect kind of makes you pronounce it in a way that kind of seems natural to us, if that makes sense.
it does.
But
Yeah,
also it just sounds cooler as well. There is that element of it as well. It just sounds a bit nicer than just council estate. And and also I suppose living in a world of cancel culture where the smallest thing can get the biggest impact. Sm Indirectly relates to that. That's probably the second part of the double entendre, but mainly around the sort of the pronunciation, I'd say, and kind of how we hear it be said by all the people that we live around.
cool. So on that note of cancel culture, like, how do you feel that's going at the moment? Because you are right. I think people can do the smallest thing and actually face cancellation for it. What's your personal views on it based on like what the idea of this or the album title was?
So I think there's pros and cons to it, of course. I think there are definitely certain issues that have been brought to light that probably weren't so prevalent in my years growing up and years prior to that. And I think that progression is always a huge thing. When it's a case of cancel just for the sake of cancel, I'm not about that. Like I think
Yeah.
that things can definitely be perceived in two different ways. That's always to say, no, I'm not standing up for anybody. I'm not saying that anyone's right or anyone's wrong. There's definitely some allegations and some principles of that nature which I think are very well deserved and absolutely should be brought to the forefront. But I think we should probably just let's hear the facts before we start getting our burning torches out, shall we? Like,
I'd agree with that. Now going back to the actual record, sorry, you got me to you made me want to ask that random question in between all
no,
my
do it, bring
questions
it
there.
on.
But what are there any sort of songs that stand out on the record for you? Something that you're particularly proud of?
I Let me just remind myself what it is. It's like a little plug here. Here's the physical that you can buy available on our store. Um, there's a few here that I'd say I'm proud of, and I know it's kind of like a sort of beat around the bush kind of thing. Sunflower Shadows, I'm quite proud of because it's a sound that we've never really delved in before. We've never really done anything with that kind of pop punky, sort of happy kind of feeling song, and I think that that got perceived significantly better than we thought it would have done. It's the song that my partner's friends, for example, that aren't into heavy music, it's like their favorite song, and I think it's a really good one to try and grab people that aren't specifically within the metal genre and surrounding areas and kind of drag them into the mix. Driller for me is a personal favorite. Two reasons. One, I think the song's amazing. I think it's one of my favorite songs that we've done full stop. Two, it links to a very happy memory of me. It's the song that we opened the main stage of Bloodstock for. So that of course brings back that amazing memory. And I think from a lyrical challenge, you don't want none because there's some really fast bits in there. lyrically one of my favorite constructions of a song.
Cool. Well, I mean, I would say I can't actually remember all the song titles because I listened to it when it first came out. Remembered I was having an interview with you today, and I was like, "Oh, better get listening again." And I can't remember the song titles. What's the first track off the album? Because that really did. I dug that because it was such a really for me when a song opens a record and it opens it well, it captivates you for the majority of it, and I really dug that one. What was it called again?
That's Ixnay, that one. We
That
kind
one.
of wanted to
Yeah,
go balls to the walls, to be honest. We wanted
yeah,
there to be, we've been, guilty is probably the wrong word, but we've kind of always had a bit of an intro to the first song, kind of build people into it. And this time we're like, nah, let's just not beat around the bush. Let's get straight to the point. And I
yeah,
think it's definitely our most party song on the album as well. There's
yeah.
a
Of
great video for it as well. Of course, I'd say that because it's our
course you
band,
would.
but really fun filming it. We got to dress up in like smart gear and like we get all the disco stuff around us. So yeah, super fun video to make as
Yeah.
well.
I wish I could remember the name of the this specific song that I heard that really caught my attention. I think it was the last song of one of your records years ago now, but it was like a very much a spoken word, slow paced song. Um, do
I
you think
imagine that was the song to my mum, Dear
that?
Hazel.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to say like for me personally, when a band like yourselves does something that's sort of unexpected or out of the ordinary, a bit slower pace or even faster pace, that stands out. I think it's amazing. It shows that you do have range. But I wanted to just give you a shout out for that one because I really dug that one. And let's be honest, it was kind of sweet of you, like what you were saying about your mum there.
No, thank you very much. I've said it before and it's no secret, and I'll say it anytime I'm asked. She's my hero. She absolutely is.
Brilliant.
She's the fuel in the engine, and my daughter's there now as well. Just little NOS canister, just boosting me up.
Lovely. Now, you sort of obviously did a shameful plug of the physical release of the album. Where can they buy it from? Where can we direct them to the website?
Great question. I bet our big cartel, it'll be on there for sure. I think you can get links via Bandcamp as well.
Cool. Now, this is something I've asked quite a few bands recently because fans, the way we consume music in the digital sorry, has, it's greatly different to how it was when I was young and perhaps yourself when, we would get that physical release on release day and stuff like that. Do you think full albums and even physical release of albums are still necessary in today's age?
Again, I think there are huge pros and cons to that. I seem to do very politician answers today, to be honest with you, but yes and no. But like to kind of give my sort of thought process on that is yes, I think that there's still a market for it. I mean, talking from I suppose if you're talking a financially a business sense, I see the transactions that are made on our tills. I see the transactions that go through when we are at gigs. A lot of that is physical music. A lot of it's t-shirts, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there that still want to buy that because not everyone has the newest car that's got that USB, so people need the CD for the car.
Yeah,
Some people, myself included, I love the artwork around it. I love the fact that it kind of tells that story. I remember, and I suppose I've got the nostalgia aspect of like growing up and flicking through that lyric sheet and like, oh, as being a very lyrically driven person when it comes to music, that was a real big selling point for me of like, well, I get to hear and I get to read the stories that this artist is trying to portray. Now, one positive I think about moving away from that culture is someone like myself, and especially like kids of our newer generations. We live in essentially what I would call an iPod nation, right?
yeah,
You don't have an album anymore, so you don't listen to start to finish. But what that does do is that means that actually, well, that song takes you a bit away from your standard genre because it's something that you wouldn't maybe have heard if you bought if you like Machine Head, you buy the next Machine Head album, right? Where if you like that one Machine Head song, the necessary evil that is Spotify, love it or hate it. What I adore about it is its AI function. Random cat, let's put you on the spot. Uh, what I love about it is that AI function where, okay, well, you picked this song specifically to listen to. Here's some other things you might like. And that has been the growth of my music taste over the last 2 to 3 years is kind of putting a bit of faith in artificial intelligence, right? And go, well, actually,
yeah,
you let me down sometimes, but the majority of the time you're bringing bangers because you can identify songs that do follow that same pattern, and it's opened me up to a whole new, not only genres but bands and styles, and yeah. So Long answer to a short question. Yes and no.
I love it. You're right. It's a very politician-like response, but to be fair, I can fully understand that. I mean, like the way I can talk about myself is I hate clutter, and the only thing that is cluttered for me is my wall of CDs.
Yeah,
And I don't really seem to buy them anymore unless it's, I suppose, a very special edition or a band that I have to have. Um, and because of that, I think like records are actually coming back now. I don't even own a CD player anymore, I've realized. So
yeah.
it's an interesting concept really when you think about it.
I think
Um,
last time I sort of looked into this, I think the last device I had a disk drive on was like 2010 or
wow,
something like that. So it's like you really think that like we've done so long without this sort of, or personally I've done so long without having this sort of media in my life, but I'm still partial to the artwork. I love the thought process that goes into it. I mean, I designed all the art for our physical. I didn't do the artwork for the last one, but I was definitely very heavily involved with the process with the designer. Same with the album before that, heavily involved. So it's something I enjoy doing. So I appreciate when other people do it as well.
cool. Now, you've got quite a unique sound as a band. How would you describe your music to someone that I suppose you're trying to sell yourself to?
It's always a really hard question, to be
I
honest
know,
with you,
right?
because
I'm a jerk like that.
uh, I suppose every band will tell you that they are unique in some degree, and I do agree with a lot of that. However, I think what we do very fortunately manage to provide is something that doesn't really fit directly in metalcore, doesn't really fit directly in the nightclub. I kind of call it that dance floor meets hardcore kind of situation. So we are, as you know, like you listen to Ixnay and you could probably bum that up in a club on a Friday night and you will have some sad faces, but I think a lot of people will dance to it. And then you go later into the album to something like Blame Pain or Driller. You could see that at a metalcore gig and you wouldn't be, again, very similar. That would fit in there. So I like the fact that we are almost this nice little bridge between hardcore, dance floor. Let's all meet around. And I think that probably more tailored to the live shows. Acceptance is a huge part of our band. We don't care what background you're from. We don't care race, nationality, any of that stuff. Doesn't matter to us. You can come to our gig. It's a safe environment, and we are all there to specifically have fun. There is no alternative motive. Yes, lyrics are about certain subjects and then certain subjects I don't really like to go into much detail about because I want people to perceive that media as they want to perceive it, right? I'm not there to dictate that you should feel
Yeah.
this about this song. And I think that does help us because it means you can come to our show and you don't care what the song's about. As long as you're there to party and have fun, everyone's welcome.
Yeah. I just wanted to say on the note of dancing, I caught you guys at the Breed 77 show in London a few months back.
Okay.
And I have to say, your dance moves, cracking. Love them.
I think you're one of the only people that's ever said that. I dance like a gazelle being electrocuted.
And I think it's
But
brilliant.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Thank you. I'll add
No,
that
that's
to my
all right.
CV now.
Well,
Qualified dancer.
do it.
Yeah.
Now what's been the highlight of 2024 for you personally, and possibly even as the band?
It seems like I'm really selling a new album here, but having that release was a big part. I won't go into all the politics behind it, but it took us longer than we anticipated to get the album out. I can go into a little bit about it. The big part of
Please
it
do.
is this is an independent album. So I think we at the beginning probably bit off more than we could chew. We didn't we we understood the gravitas of all the work that went behind it, but when you actually start doing that, we all work full time. Some of us are parents, some of us have got other curricular activities that we do. Some of us work odd hours, right? So it's trying to, well, how do we, and all on top of this, trying to keep a social media presence, trying to do gigs, trying to be in everyone's faces as much as possible, whilst juggling all this other stuff. Yeah, it took us longer than anticipated. But I think that we didn't rush it for the sake of just getting it out. We wanted to make sure everything was right. What I call the admin. So all the band admin behind the album was done before we released it. And I think the six of us working together to make that happen was a huge proud moment. We've
Cool.
obviously played some fantastic shows. We did our first DJ set this year, and it was like, well, something we've never done before, but we had a hell of a lot of fun. People actually turned up and people told us they liked it. So I think for me personally, the big thing is the album. getting it out and it being very well perceived, being able to have the biggest venue in our city to be our location that we did our album launch. Massive news. Couldn't believe it. So yeah, I think I'd probably speak on behalf of the band. Sorry, other five, if you don't agree with me, but you should have been there if you didn't agree.
Yeah, there you go.
I would say the album is our proudest moment.
Cool. Now, I want to ask, because you guys do tour, you do play loads of shows, and that must be hard work, to be fair, being working and all that. But what's the strangest thing to happen to you guys whilst you've been on tour or on the road?
It's that cop out that there has been so many. It's kind of hard to nail down. The first one that comes to mind, and it actually didn't. It happened to a band that we were touring with in 2015 when we were touring with Mordred. We were playing in Scotland for the first time in Bannerman's. Now, Bannerman's is a claim to be a haunted property as well. So you stay above it and it's all haunted. And during Mordred's gig, some guy managed to get in and give the DJ a part of a weights bench and then fall over and then get kicked out. And we're like, well, I have no idea what happened there. I have no idea why that happened, where that happened. The second one that I suppose more happened to us specifically as a band was we've been very fortunate to play in Belgium quite a number of times. It's like our second home. If I was ever gonna relocate out the UK, no, I'm going straight to Belgium because I love that city. I love where we play. We played a festival out there and it had big acts like I Killed the Prom Queen, the Browning, and like all these huge acts were due to play. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a storm wiped out everything. It literally hammered down. You could see thunder and everything. So because the stage was outside, it potentially got rained off until about midnight. Now all the bands that were supposed to play end up playing in this abandoned school in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of like a Belgian cornfield. There's this old school that's got holes in it and this and that. One toilet for hundreds of people. I Killed the Prom Queen played like basically a request gig. And then we went on. So weirdly, they supported us because of the way it was supposed to be the after party, but because of the way all the new liners worked out, we played like 3 a.m. And there was about 30 people there, which doesn't sound like fun, but it was one of the funnest gigs we've ever done. I think I got into my pants. Some guy brought a sofa up and we're diving off the stage into the sofa. And then I look over to the corner and there's a guy that's really out of place. He's in a crisp white shirt at a festival, sat on a chair with a stemmed glass of red wine. The venue didn't even sell red wine. They didn't even have glasses because it was all plastic. So I'm like, was you a figment of my imagination? Was you like from fatigue or like, was you real? And I spoke to the band members like, no, we all saw him. He's definitely there. So that was quite a surreal moment. Guy, 3 a.m., crisp white shirt, stemmed glass of red wine in an abandoned school watching us play.
Now, that doesn't sound creepy at all. Maybe it was a group hallucination, perhaps.
I think so. It was early. It was early in the morning at this point. So
Fair enough. Now, who would you say is the most chaotic member of Seething Akira?
I think for different reasons, I will put my hat in the mix and say I have my moments. I'm the one that will potentially like hide someone's pants or just get in their bed or just have a little snuggle. Clothes, don't need them. It's fine, absolutely fine. Uh, I think our bassist Spud is a bit of a wild card as well. So he's one that like you're all just sat around having a drink and all of a sudden he is smashed and he's gone. I walked into Spud because when we shared a hostel with Belgium again, that he was already there in his pants, listening to music, reading a book, and eating pastries. And I was like, how are you doing all these things at once? And smashed, absolutely smashed. And I'm like, I love that. So and then Charlie's also got his moments. Charlie is another loose cannon that kind of just goes off on the tangent, and he is full steam ahead. More calculated than Spud. I think Spud's the absolute loose cannon. So we've all got our moments.
Cool. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there is a link between myself and you as a band. I don't suppose you know what that might be, do you?
Is it Portsmouth?
It's not Portsmouth.
Okay.
It's all right.
Is it Judith?
It's not, but I can tell you if
Okay.
you want, unless you want to
Yeah.
keep guessing.
No, I'm going to be here all night otherwise.
Exactly. So your bassist, Spud, I actually know him from Northampton days when I was in university. So I want to know,
Wow.
how did you actually meet this? I remember him being an absolute how can I put it, force of nature, chaotic nature, as it were. How did you actually meet this guy?
So Spud was in a band called Collisions uh, back in the day. But so essentially, we played a couple of shows of Collisions, and we end up basically getting put on a lot of the same shows because of the style of what we did. Now, Collisions unfortunately came to an end, and I say unfortunately because I was a huge fan of Collisions, loved them to bits, loved all the music they did. At the time, we was going through a phase where we were looking for a new bassist. It was like the perfect storm. We played a few shows with Spud. We got on really well with him and the Collision guys because, and we weren't stealing. We were never going to poach him and just take him because that's not our nature. But he was available, right time, right place, and one of the best decisions we made. I miss his hair. I do miss his long hair, but
Yeah.
that's his prerogative. He can do what he wants with his head.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, I always found that very, very fascinating. Because when I first got introduced to your band, I was like, I recognize that guy. And it turned out, yeah, I knew him from a while back.
He's
So
usually from the register, so it's good to know that you have known him from elsewhere.
yeah, so there we go. There's the connection.
Look
Now,
at that.
yeah. Now, my last question. Um, Making it in the music industry or being involved in the music industry is actually a painfully challenging experience. So even doing what I'm doing, I will get people saying to me, why don't you just quit your job and do this full time? I was like, because I don't really make money from it. I'd love that to happen. So I'm always fascinated. What single piece of advice would you give someone that wants to make it in the music industry, be it in a band or in a journalistic way? You know, what singular piece of advice would you give them?
It's always hard because obviously I'm sitting here saying like, oh yeah, we've made it, boys. We haven't. We've got our journeys, even though it's been unofficially, it's been 15 years me and Charlie have been working together to make Seething Akira something to some degree. The best bit of advice I can give is don't be another band. And I know that sounds so counterintuitive. Don't be another person. Don't be another journalist. Don't be another photographer. Be you as that person. Because I think one of our unique selling points is the fact that we are us. It comes across in our live shows. We're not synchronizing, we're not choreographing dance moves, we're not doing any of that. It is full out us to the fullest content. I also, what I mean by that is if you start to go to the point of mimicking, inspiration is absolutely fine. I'm not saying don't listen to music, be yourself and sit yourself in a dark room with no noise. Like inspiration is a huge part. We've all got them, right? But I think if you surround yourself by people that are following that same, so let's say you had 5 Killswitch Engage fans, and then 5 Killswitch Engage fans make a band. Probably going to sound like Killswitch Engage, right? Because that's all their influence, that's all coming from that. One thing we're quite fortunate is that the 6 of us come from completely different backgrounds musically. So Charlie started as a hip hop producer and has crept into metal over the years. I actually did the polar opposite. I started in metal and then new metal kind of chucked me well into rap. And now I probably listen to more rap than I do anything else. Spud's a bassist that's into punk. Simon is that more sort of new wave of British metal kind of fan. You've got John, who like, if there was 12-string guitars that could be lowered to like double Q or whatever they do, like he'd be playing them. And then you've got someone like Stu he like one of Stu's favorite bands is what acts is Post Malone. So it's that real like we kind of make this that we're able now to then dip into all these different inspirations and kind of do what we want to do. So be yourself. Be yourself and don't surround yourself by yes people. It's probably the best way to put it. Like you want people to tell you that you're bad. I remember playing gigs 10 years ago and we had guys heckling us and we'd do things like we played an acoustic show. Well, why are we on an acoustic show? Of course we're not going to go down well. Did it anyway, because it's that whole like prove your point. Don't change yourself for other people. Be you, and it will all work out in the end. And you'll be remembered for being you, not for being Machine Head Point 2.
Cool.
Like
Yeah, of course. Well, Kit, I want to thank you so much for taking time to have a chat with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to see what 2025 brings for you and the band.
thank you very
I'll
much.
leave it on whatever Richard says about me. If it's good, it's true. If it's bad, he's lying through his teeth. But it's fantastic to chat to you. Thanks so
You
much.
too, mate. You have a good one. Bye bye.
See you later, mate. Peace.